Higher. There's one letter that thousands of retirees receive every single year. Most people think it's routine. They open it, read the first few lines, then set it aside. I'll deal with this later. For some retirees, that single decision becomes incredibly expensive. Higher. Because weeks later, their monthly Social Security payment is smaller, or they discover they're expected to repay thousands of dollars. And suddenly, that ordinary-looking letter becomes the most important piece of mail they've received all year. Here's the surprising part. Higher. Most of those retirees didn't intentionally break the rules. Many weren't trying to hide income, many didn't commit fraud, and many had absolutely no idea a problem even existed. So why did Social Security send the letter? What does it actually mean? Higher. And why do so many people misunderstand it? Today, I'll explain the one Social Security letter that creates more confusion than almost any other, the costly mistakes retirees make after receiving it. Higher. And the first thing you should do before making a decision that could affect your retirement income, because understanding this letter today could save you thousands of dollars tomorrow. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Higher. Every week we explain Social Security and Medicare in plain English using reliable information so you can understand your benefits without confusing legal language or internet rumors. Now let's begin. Imagine it's an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. You check your mailbox. Higher. There's a grocery flyer, a utility bill, a birthday card from your granddaughter, and one official envelope from the Social Security Administration. You don't think much of it. After all, Social Security sends letters from time to time. Maybe it's another benefit update. Higher. Maybe it's a cost of living notice, maybe it's just information for your records. So you open it, you skim the first paragraph, then your eyes stop on one sentence. You were overpaid. A few lines later, you read something else. You owe Social Security money. For many retirees, higher. That's the exact moment panic begins. How can I owe money? They've been paying me for years. Did they make a mistake? Are they going to stop my checks? Those are reasonable questions, but before you panic, there's something extremely important you need to understand. Higher. An overpayment notice does not automatically mean you've done something wrong. It does not automatically mean Social Security believes you committed fraud. And it does not automatically mean you should send a payment immediately. What it means is much more specific. Higher. Based on the information currently in its records, Social Security believes you received more benefits than you were entitled to receive during a certain period. That's all. The next question is the one that really matters. Why? Higher. Because until you understand why Social Security believes an overpayment happened, you can't know what your next step should be. Sometimes the issue involves earnings that affected benefits. Sometimes information was updated after payments had already been issued. Higher. Sometimes there's a reporting delay, and sometimes the situation is more complicated than retirees first realize. That's exactly why reading only the first page of the letter can become such an expensive mistake. Many retirees focus on one thing, the amount they supposedly owe. Higher. But the most important information is often found in the pages that follow. Those pages explain why Social Security believes an overpayment occurred, which months are involved, what your rights are, and what options may be available before any money is recovered, unfortunately. Higher. Many people never get that far. They panic, they put the letter away, or they rely on advice from friends who had a completely different situation. That's where costly mistakes begin. In the next section, we'll explain the difference between an appeal and a waiver. Higher. Why so many retirees confuse the two, and the first three things you should do before responding to any Social Security overpayment notice. Let's begin with the question almost nobody answers clearly. What's the difference between an appeal and a waiver? Higher. Those two words sound similar. Many retirees think they're the same thing. They're not. And understanding the difference could save you time, money, and unnecessary stress. An appeal means you believe Social Security's decision is incorrect. Maybe you don't believe you were overpaid. Higher. Maybe you believe the amount is wrong. Or maybe you think Social Security used incorrect information when calculating your benefits. An appeal is your way of saying, I don't agree with this decision and I want it reviewed. A waiver is completely different. Higher. A waiver doesn't necessarily argue that the overpayment didn't happen. Instead, you're asking Social Security not to recover the money because you believe you were not at fault, and repayment would cause financial hardship or you otherwise meet the legal requirements. Higher. That single difference changes everything. Unfortunately, many retirees don't understand which option fits their situation. They choose the wrong path. Weeks go by, sometimes months, only to discover they should have taken a different approach from the beginning. Higher. Now here's another mistake that costs people money. They assume every overpayment notice means they must immediately write a check. That's not always true. The first thing you should do isn't send money. The first thing you should do is understand the notice. Higher. Start with three simple questions. Question 1. What period does Social Security say the overpayment covers? Is it 1 month, 6 months, several years? Knowing the time period helps you compare the notice with your own records. Question 2. Higher. Why does Social Security believe the overpayment happened? Did the letter mention earnings, a benefit adjustment, a reporting issue? Another reason? Don't guess. Read the explanation carefully. Question 3. Do your own records match what the notice says? Higher. Review your previous benefit letters. Look at your bank deposits. If employment is involved, review your earnings records. If you reported a life change, check when you reported it. Your goal is simple. Compare the facts in the notice with the facts in your own records. Higher. Here's something many retirees overlook. Keep copies of everything, the notice, any forms you submit, any supporting documents. And if you call Social Security, write down the date, drop down what was discussed, and keep any confirmation numbers you receive. Higher. Those notes can become extremely valuable if you need to follow up later. Now let's talk about another common misunderstanding. Some people think that because Social Security sent the letter, the decision must automatically be correct. Not necessarily. Higher. Government agencies process millions of records every year. If something doesn't make sense, ask questions. That's not being difficult. That's being responsible at the same time. Don't assume the notice is wrong simply because you don't like the result. Approach it with facts. Higher. Not emotions. That's the fastest way to understand what's actually happening. Now imagine 2 retirees. Both receive the exact same overpayment notice. The first person panics. Without reading the entire letter, they immediately borrow money from family and send a payment. Higher. The second person takes a different approach. They read every page, review their records, prepare questions, and then contact Social Security with specific information. Which retiree is more likely to make the right decision? Almost always the second one. Higher. Because understanding comes before action, and that's exactly what this letter is asking you to do. Understand it first. Respond second. In the final part, we'll explain what happens if you ignore the notice, the deadlines that matter. Higher. The biggest myth retirees believe about Social Security overpayments, and the exact step-by-step checklist you should follow before making your final decision. The question many retirees are afraid to ask: what happens if you ignore the letter? Higher. Some people believe the problem will simply disappear. Others assume Social Security will eventually realize it made a mistake. Unfortunately, that's not a strategy, it's a gamble. If you receive an overpayment notice, the most expensive decision you can make is doing nothing. Higher. Because while you're waiting, the deadlines listed in the notice continue to move closer. And once those deadlines pass, some of your options may become more limited. That's why the first few days after receiving the letter are so important, not because you should panic. Higher. But because you should understand exactly what Social Security is asking you to do. Here's a simple action plan. Step 1. Read every page of the notice, not just the first page. Many retirees stop reading as soon as they see the amount they supposedly owe. Don't make that mistake. Higher. The remaining pages often explain why the decision was made, what period it covers, and what your response options are. Step 2. Dot-cate a simple timeline. Drop down the dates mentioned in the letter. Compare them with your own records. Did something change during that time? Higher. Did you report it? Do your records match what Social Security is describing? A timeline makes complicated situations much easier to understand. Step 3. Gather your documents, previous benefit notices, relevant earnings records, if applicable, letters you've already received. Higher. And any information that may help explain your situation. The more organized you are, the easier it becomes to ask the right questions. Step 4. Contacts Social Security. If you still don't understand the notice, don't call simply to say, "I got a letter." Instead, be specific. Higher. Ask questions like, can you explain how this overpayment was calculated? What information was used to make this decision? What options are available in my situation? Those questions usually lead to much more useful answers. Now let's clear up 3 common myths. Myth number 1. Higher. If Social Security says I owe money, I have to pay immediately. Not necessarily. Before taking action, understand why the overpayment was identified and what response options may apply to your situation. Myth number 2. If I ignore the letter, nothing will happen. Higher. Ignoring an official notice rarely improves the situation. Understanding it and responding appropriately is almost always the better approach. Myth number 3. Everyone else's advice applies to me. Every overpayment case depends on its own facts, the amount involved. Higher. The reason for the overpayment, your reporting history, your financial circumstances. That's why your notice matters more than stories you hear online. Now let's quickly review today's key takeaways. First, don't panic. Higher. Receiving an overpayment notice does not automatically mean you've done something wrong. Second, read every page before making any decision. The explanation is often just as important as the amount listed. Third, understand the difference between an appeal and a waiver. Higher. They're designed for different situations. Fourth, review your own records before assuming Social Security or anyone else is correct. And finally, If you're unsure what the notice means, ask questions before taking action. Higher. Understanding the situation first can help you make a better decision. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications every week. We explain Social Security and Medicare in plain English using reliable information, higher, so you can make confident decisions about your retirement benefits. Now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever received a letter from Social Security that was difficult to understand? Without sharing personal information, tell us what confused you the most. Higher. Your experience may help another retiree avoid making the same mistake. And if you know someone who receives Social Security, share this video with them, because the best time to understand an important letter is before it becomes an expensive problem. Thank you for watching. Higher, and I'll see you in the next video.